I think the process at Pakatan Rakyat of the three parties and internally of each party to deal with the redelineation process has started. At least in PKR, I can share with you that all along we have stated that a redelineation can only be done on the basis of principles. It's not on the basis of numerical. It doesn't make a difference whether it's 245, 246, 236. So long as the real principles to ensure equitable and fairness in terms of constituency, in terms of coverage, in terms of weightage are given. And that's why I am concerned, because when the public is, or political parties, even the three Pakatan Rakyat parties, if the concern is too much about how many additional seats is on table, and this has always been the way I was told SPR manage the redelineation process, which is to bandy the carrots. The likelihood of how many new seats PKR will get, the likelihood of how many DAP, how many new seats DAP or PAS will get. I don't think the three parties will fall for it this time around. We have, as much as Hisham rubbish almost everything, but I think we agree on one common thing, which is any change has to be structural in nature. The complaint or the dissatisfaction of the current 222 seats is not so much about the total number of seats. It is about these 222 seats are gerrymandered in such a way that the parliament truly does not represent the voice of the people on the ground. That's the real issue. The size of the constituency was done in such a way that it only takes one vote compared to 5 votes of different constituency to elect one MP in parliament. That is the real issue. And that issue can only be resolved by way of agreeing mutually of all the political parties what are the principles with which any redelineation can be done. And we have stated, at least at Pakatan Rakyat level, that such principles must include an acceptable variance of constituency size, one against another, and assurance that special interests and rural bias and minority interests are looked after. And therefore, I totally disagree with the call that all constituencies, for example, is of the same size. Because in that sense, that will be unfair to the Bornean constituencies, for example. But there must be a parameter by which we agree that in order to ensure equal and fair representation of the people of Sabah and Sarawak, a certain deviation must be allowed. All this, by right, should be the basis to discuss a redelineation process. It's not a question of whether it's 222 or 245 or 246. So far, that is how we have approached the whole exercise. The whole discussion has taken away from a question of who is going to get what or where. It is a question of whether or not SPR will honor the fair basis that the people will get a fair representation in parliament, and only an allowable parameter of difference is allowed given certain circumstances which could be agreed mutually. And lastly, I'm sure that Saifuddin also understand, without a parliamentary reform in place, really does not make a difference whether you have 222, 245, 260. Because only a certain number of MPs have opportunity to speak in parliament. It's very difficult to get a queue in parliament, and unless it is, unless the whip lists you as one of the speakers for certain topics, you know, you just go to Parliament and listen to Bu Mokhtar, which is not really. Imagine the torture we have to go through every session. You know, so unless you have a series of select committees being put in place where MPs of different expertise are allowed to participate in areas where they have interest and they can contribute greatly, then a number, whether or not we have additional MPs, then it will make a difference. As it is now, I'm more inclined to say, personally, you know, my personal opinion, I would rather allow the number to stay as it is, 222, to preempt any attempt to further gerrymander the boundary. Unless we agree on a set of principles, my vote in Pakatan Rakyat will always say I reject any new boundary, whether or not that will give 20 or 30 more urban seats to Pakatan Rakyat. Because this cannot be short-term measure. This has to be about the acknowledgement and to honor the principles that Bersih has fought for, that Pakatan has fought for, that unless we do away with gerrymandering in our election system, it's going to be no end. And as it is, unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any honesty on the part of SPR to go towards a principled approach to redelineation. It seems that they are falling back to what they think is a tested method, which is to dangle the carrot and hopefully divide the three Pakatan parties, because then their hope is the three Pakatan parties will argue among ourselves who will get more seats, which we are very cautious about, and we will do everything in our power and influence to make sure we don't fall into that trap. Thank you very much.